window. Both hands. With your left hand, open your door. Open up wide. Step out of the vehicle with your hands up and look away from me.
Today we are recording a case that happened in Grand Rapids, Michigan, here on Division Street. Okay, here we are in Grand Rapids, Michigan. And behind me is Division Street. We're going back to the mid-1990s. 16 women were found dead, strangled, beaten, and tied up, or some of these people had even gone missing. And there were absolutely no leads. Until the 2020s, forensic developments became more popular and they started opening up these cold cases. DNA genealogical evidence was able to capture this serial killer that was responsible for a lot of these deaths and also disappearances. In 2023, it took a half hour to convict serial killer Artman. Okay, Artman was a truck driver who had 2.5 million miles behind his belt. And as you can see here, he cruised up and down Division. And he was quote to say that he hunted for these girls. He called them bodies and hunted for his prey and found adult workers and prostitutes on this street here and would cruise up and down to try to find them. He would prey on those women and even somebody who had a broken arm because he said it was easy pickings. Okay. Thank you. So he would cross up and down these lines here on Division and all these stops that led into the downtown Grand Rapids area. So here we are coming on this intersection where she was found. And the funny thing is, look, they're building a school right here where her body was found. Right in the same area. And her body was found between that street and this street coming up, which is Craft in these woods. And in the 90s, there really wasn't any houses out here. It was mostly just farmland and a swamp and trees and all that. So this really wasn't here in the 90s. And here is the intersection of Craft. It's a very short kind of stretch here. Here is the little town of Caledonia. Okay, here we're coming up on Craft Avenue, which is we're here by 76th Street, going down the road, and her body was found right off the street here after this Craft. And here's like the intersection, and this was a lot of woods at the time in the 90s. And October 3rd, which all of you, if you follow me, know that I absolutely hate October 3rd. She was found in a field between Patterson and Craft in Caledonia Township, 10 foot off the road. It wasn't like all these houses that there are now. And she was found about 10 foot off the road in deep, tall grass, wrapped in a blanket. She was strangled, stabbed, and then hogtied. A delivery driver found her. And here, till recently, on this side of the road, it was still a lot of woods, and on the right side, there's a little bit of woods left there too. And it's mostly new houses, and they are putting a school there. How interesting! How fun! I bet they don't know that, or they just try to keep it quiet. I don't know. So on each side of this road, there are a lot of woods here, as you can see, still today. And this side, they have recently taken down the woods. And today this is all being developed. There's new condos going in here, and just down the road that way is Amazon now. Okay, hey everybody, Jody Genealogy, and today we have a serial killer episode. I don't know if I like the serial killer stuff, but that's where we're going today. Oh my goodness. This light is kind of shining kind of weird in my eye, but we're going to go on with it because this girl's taking care of her mama, and it is probably like 1 o'clock in the morning, so I'm quietly trying to finish up this video, and we'll see where it goes. Make sure to like and subscribe if you like these true crime histories. And for all you freaky fans that like true crime like I do, well, I like to dive into like the scary stuff. For 26 years, the murder of Sharon Hancock was a ghost story that haunted streets of Grand Rapids. A young mother, pregnant, found wrapped in a blanket. The trail went cold. And the DNA, well, it sat there in a freezer for many, many years. But as police were searching for the monster, well, the monster was already gone. The monster had disappeared, and nobody could figure out who was taking these women or killing these women that were found. And we're diving back into the 90s, and this monster was behind a wheel of a Kenworth semi-truck, cruising at 70 miles an hour, clocking over 2 million miles across the American interstates. In 1996, Sharon Hammack was found wrapped in an electric blanket. She was 29 years old and pregnant. For nearly 3 decades, her case was just at a dead end. But while the physical evidence sat in a cold locker, the killer was still out there, living his second life. He wasn't hiding in the basement. He wasn't hiding in plain sight. He was just cruising down the interstate in his semi-truck. I wonder if you out there rode right past him and didn't even know it. You probably did. And if you lived in the Grand Rapids area in the 90s, like I did, you probably even came across this man. I actually thought I had seen him before, which is really, really creepy. Sharon was last seen on October 3rd of 1996. You know, October 3rd, if you know me, is like the day that I absolutely hate. I hate October 3rd every year. It's just one of those days. I don't like October 3rd. The interstate of Banner Street and Division Street in Grand Rapids, her remains were located the same day in a ditch near the intersection of 76th Street and Craft Avenue, south of Grand Rapids. Sharon's remains were located wrapped in a blanket, and she was wearing only a white bra and a pearl necklace. Her clothing and her shoes are yet to be found. Her cause of death was while she was raped and stabbed in the head twice. Now, this was a pregnant woman and a mother, and then she was strangled to death. Today we go beyond the headlines and we explore this high-tech DNA trap that finally caught Garry Artman, and this disturbing psychological profile of a man who viewed himself as the judge and the executioner. His name was Garry Artman, and in 2023, his lungs were failing, a life sentence was looming, and he decided to order one last meal. It was a double meat and ham sandwich from Subway, a chance to tell the world exactly how many people he really killed.
Where did you like to hunt?
divisions.
Oh, I thought you were talking about deer hunting. I was going to go down that road with you there, but Division Street, I understand. So you go pick them up.
They needed to die.
Why was it that they needed to die?
Don't know. I didn't get caught.
Yeah.
For all those years, I never got caught.
These dumpsters.
Ta-da!
Well, Gary, you want to see some pictures?
Yeah.
All right. I mean, we got nothing to lose at this point.
Look through these and tell us if you killed any of those girls, if you remember.
She had a broken arm, dressed in what came out of Sosa.
Came out of Soso's? That's a bar that used to be on Division. All right, and then you brought her back to your apartment? No, Soso's. You were living I think you were living right around the corner.
Gary, how did you kill her?
Strangled.
You said you killed her, but what did you do with her after that?
Just where she wanted to go.
Well, where'd she want to go?
Went straight to the pit of hell.
This trucker's trail, for 26 years, Artman was a ghost. But in 2021, the Kent County Sheriff's Office turned to a new weapon, and that was forensic genealogy. Garry Artman wasn't just a killer. He was a long-haul trucker.
Both hands outside the window. Both hands. With your left hand, open your door. Open up wide. Step out of the vehicle with your hands up and look away from me.
A driver for an office supply company made the discovery. The body was wrapped in a blanket, dumped just a few feet off the side of the road.
Most of the victims were drug-addicted prostitutes who disappeared while working the street.
Have here is ones that they think potentially could have been involved in that series of murders. They just had so many random tips coming in, and they would see the tip for Garry Artman. Even though they did get Gary at that time, by contacting him, if they had him scared enough that they thought that they were onto him, apparently that made him stop at that time, at least, if you believe what he said.
H2 called me. They got a damn guy working for murder in an 18-wheeler.
Last name is Horton. A-R-T-M-A-N Horton.
I'm gonna talk to him on the radio. We'll do a felony traffic stop. Nobody run up in there and try to jerk him out of the truck. We're gonna walk him back to us. Driver! Step out of the vehicle! Watch out! Put your hands up in the air! Put your hands up in the air! Face away from me! I don't give a shit! Put your f***ing hands in the air! You better stop f***ing listening to me, motherfucker! Turn away! Turn the f*** away!
In his office was the entire United States. In the 1990s in Grand Rapids saw a terrifying spike in missing people and women being murdered. There were 16 total. These were women that were working or on the streets in the kind of adult entertainment, if you know what I mean. Probably pretty easy targets. And here's Artman just living in the middle of it. But this man was smart. He targeted women on the fringes of society, those he judged to be sinners. After he killed Sharon Hammack in 1996, he simply just left. They didn't just look for a direct match in criminal databases, they looked for relatives. As a genealogist spent months comparing a crime scene DNA against nearly 3 million samples in the public databases. They used things like GEDmatch or family tree DNA, and there's also ancestry DNA. The DNA pointed to a specific couple of Eastern European people who had immigrated to the USA. These people happened to have 4 sons, and the detectives didn't have to guess which one it really was. They used biological breadcrumbs that were kind of just left behind. 4 brothers, and the only one, who was Gary, had lived just 5 miles from where Sharon Hammack was last seen. It was a digital trap with no amount of highway miles that he could outrun or cover up. He stayed on the road for decades, and in 2006, he struck again, 600 miles away in Maryland. He killed 24-year-old Dusty Shuck and dumped her in a dumpster, which he later confessed to. 2 different states, 2 different tragedies, kind of the same situation. But to police, they were kind of unrelated tragedies. And to Artman, these women were just a stop on his route. Oh, this is a bad man. The world changed, but Artman didn't. He thought he'd gotten away with it, but in 2022, detectives turned to forensic genealogy. They had taken the DNA from that blanket that Sharon was found in the woods, and they put that DNA through all of these genetic databases. Now, the software didn't exactly find Garry or lead up right to Garry, but it led to his cousins. So they knew that they had this family match going on. Oh, that'd be kind of freaky, right? That'd be kind of freaky. Investigators narrowed down the tree down to the Artman family. There were 4 brothers, and one had lived in Florida and one in Mississippi, but only one, Garry, had been in the Grand Rapids area in 1996. You know, that's quite a light bulb going off. I mean, DNA is awesome, I have to say. So thankful for the advancements of DNA for these families. The police pulled him over in Mississippi in August of 2022. They didn't just find a 64-year-old man with terminal cancer. They found a man who had been hiding in plain sight for 26 years. Oh my goodness. What kind of man really does this? Now, to go back in time, let's just back up a little bit. Go back to the 1980s. He had been convicted of brutal rapes against girls. During his 11 years in prison for his crimes, he did not rehabilitate. He radicalized himself into a different situation. His private journals revealed a chilling transformation. He began to express a deep-seated hatred for women. He didn't just see himself as a predator, he saw himself as a judge and executioner. He deemed those girls as sinners and decided to take it upon himself to do something, to amuse himself in some sick and twisted way. These were predominantly women who were struggling with addiction and, adult kind of work. He believed they were addiction and prostitution. He believed they were disposable. He didn't even think of them as being somebody's child, mother, daughter, sister, friend. He had a moral justification with himself. It allowed him to kill and dump bodies. And then simply back in his truck he went, 500 miles away, to the next delivery stop on his list, without a shred of remorse. Fast forward now to December 2023. Artman had been convicted of Shannon's murder. He was dying in a prison hospital in Jackson, Michigan. He falls into a coma, and everyone thinks that his secrets are going to his grave. And then suddenly he just wakes up. He tells the detectives that he wants to talk, but he has one price. Of course, he's got to have something, right? He's got to be in control. He wants a double meat and ham sandwich from Subway. So for 4 hours, the police sat with him, playing his little game between his bites of sandwich. The 2.5 million mile monster starts to finally speak. And he doesn't just admit to killing Shannon. He admits to killing 11 murders. 10 in Grand Rapids and 1 in Maryland. He talks about Cathleen Dennis, a woman who had disappeared in 1995. He describes the cast that she was wearing at the time on her arm, a detail only a killer would know. And the scary thing is, I was riding around on Division with my friend at the time, the same time that these murders were taking place, and her car broke down. And the only person that would answer the phone was her dad, thank goodness, who came to rescue us very, very quickly. I actually don't know how he made it there so quick, but he told us, you girls stay right by the phone and don't you move. I'm thankful for her dad each and every day, especially looking back at this story. The police had finally raided Artman's Florida storage unit in 2022. Ew, after the last video I did about a storage unit. Ooh, do I really want to know?
Is this the storage unit that you searched pursuant to that search warrant?
It is. This is the facility where it was located at, yes. This item was taken, it's a cooler that was found at the rear of the unit. It was filled with, it was in plastic bags with female underwear and garments.
Equals 46.
Again, more clothing items being taken from the cooler.
Equals 47.
Again, the same thing. There's going to be a lot of photos of clothing items that we did recover from this cooler.
Are these all women's underwear?
From my knowledge, yeah.
They found a literal house of horrors, once again, right? Knives, ropes, and torture videos were discovered alongside multiple pairs of women's underwear that didn't even belong to any known victim at the time. Oh my goodness. Ew. This wasn't a man who killed once or twice. This is a collector. A forensic analysis believes that these items were trophy items from victims across 2.5 million miles back and forth and all around. All those miles that he had been traveling for this many years. Women whose disappearance might have been written off as runaways because of their lifestyles. Now, Garry Artman, he died just on December 28th of 2023. Well, now we can all breathe just a little bit easier, I think. He died a convicted killer, thank goodness for Shannon's case that brought justice to quite a few families, and at least they know this person is caught and they had something to go forward with where they knew who had done what. But his wreckage and his carnage literally spans the entire country. Police are still looking at those 2.5 million miles that he drove. How many other truck stops, how many other ghost victims are still waiting for their names to be called? We may never know the full account, but for the families of Grand Rapids here in Michigan, the boogeyman was finally caught, finally has a face, and somewhat of a story of what probably happened to their loved ones. He was exactly where he belonged. I'm glad that some of these families had justice from this serial killer. I don't like serial killers. It's really creepy. So if you like spooky stories or true crime stories, make sure to follow me, like and subscribe, and leave a comment afterwards. I love to hear what you think, or if you have another spooky story you'd like me to look into, let me know. I'd love to look into it for you and dig into some more true crime history. Until next time, everybody, stay kind and stay safe. Bye. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.
Let's talk about the DNA and its significance. Then that blanket, let's talk about the electric blanket that she wrapped up in. Or common sense to explain why that blanket has his DNA on it and not hers. Other than it's his blanket and you wrapped around it after you killed it. Those fingernail clippings were tested. I think Sharon Hammack, 27 years later, came back from the grave and pointed her fingers at that man as far as.
Defendant and defense counsel, please rise. In the case of People of the State of Michigan versus Garry Dean Artman, the verdict form reads, we the jury, in the above entitled cause, all 12 jurors being in agreement, find upon our oaths that the defendant, Garry Dean Artman, is as follows. Count 1, guilty of first degree premeditated murder. Count 2, guilty of first degree felony murder. Count 3, guilty of first degree criminal sexual conduct.